ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast. Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the king is here. Booker T is back. What's going on, Booker? What's the haps?
Hey, man, you know me, man. I'm always working, man. I'm always taking care of business down here. You know, the work never ends here in the H, man. But I'm doing good, man. What about yourself?
I mean, I can tell that you're always working. I was looking at you on Instagram earlier this week, and I was like, this guy is looking jacked. You're a big guy.
Hey, man, I've been in the gym training, man. You know what the T-shirt says, man. Looking real jack, baby. That's my moniker, man. You know, staying in the gym, man. Lifting for life, man. Body beautiful. It's something me and my training partner used to say more than 25 years ago. So I'm still trying hard, man.
Yeah, do you, especially with now you have the long, luscious hair, I guess, I don't know, it looked like there's a professional photographer in the studio, and you just wanted to share. It was almost like it was the cover of like a black romance novel. Like you had that Fabio long hair, and you were flexing the bicep and everything, and just letting everybody know.
That whole thing was improv, man. Brad Gilmore, my partner, he said, hey, man, we got a photographer going to be in the studio today. I didn't know if I should wear, a suit, come in, looking dapper.
No, he came out Suns Out, Guns Out.
Right.
But I was just finishing up at the gym, man. I was like, I was riding in the Corvette, with the top down that day, so I was like, I'm going to throw the sunglasses on, man. And, you remember the song, I wear my sunglasses at night. That's the way I felt, man. You know what I mean? Riding down the highway. So it was a good day at the studio.
It was also, I feel like it was really good timing for you to wear something like that, because at the same time as those pictures come out, everybody on the internet is posting stories about how Booker T says that he's not necessarily retired. Booker T might be coming back for one match, and then you go over to your Instagram, and the most recent picture is like, oh, Booker's still got it. Look at him. He looks the same. So what brought you to make that proclamation on your show that you never necessarily said that you were retired, and that having one more match, if not several more matches, was not necessarily out of the question?
Well, my thing is this, I went in the Hall of Fame 2013. A lot of people, after they go into the Hall of Fame, that's normally the end. That's normally the retirement, step is next, But my thing is, you never say never. You never count yourself, especially a fighter. We never, know when that last match is going to be. We always say, man, we got one more run in us. You know what I mean? So my thing is, I'm in good shape. I'm never going to be in 100% tip-top shape like when I was 25 or anything like that. But I think for, my age, I think I'm doing pretty good. I could do more push-ups than any one of my students in my school. Seriously, I could do more pull-ups.
Well, definitely more than me.
I could do more pull-ups than all of my students as well. So I say, why not go out there and, have, one more match, if I can do it, because when it's all over and said and done, man, I'm not going to be able to do this one day, so while I can still do it, I say, hey, go out there and have some fun. But let's get this straight. Let's get this straight first and foremost. I don't want anyone out there thinking that I'm planning on coming back to a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania match or anything like that. If I was to do it, it would be at Reality of Wrestling. It would be, one of my students, just to show them exactly what I go out there and teach them, just so they'll know they're getting it, from a right perspective.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because when Shawn Michaels retired for the first time, his first comeback match was not the SummerSlam match with Triple H. He had his real first one more match when he said he was done was for his own promotion, for his school, because he was putting back in to this thing that he was building. So that's more where your mind is at. You're not looking for the big SummerSlam, WrestleMania payday. You're looking to take this and bring the eyes to the thing that you're building, as well as, I guess, the tools that being in the ring with somebody like you would bring.
Well, if I was to do it, it would be a payday.
He's not going to do it for free.
You know what I mean? Reality of Wrestling, we do our pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. But more importantly than that, to be able to go out there and mix it up with, one of my students, I got several students that's been with me for quite some time, to be able to go out there and, actually mix it up. I'm sure that would be, one off the bucket list for one of my students to actually get in there and, mingle with their sensei. That would be awesome. I wish I would have had a chance to go out there and wrestle. My trainer Scott Casey. That would have been one of those moments where I say, wow, that was one of those awesome deals. So my thing is, I want to still be able to go out and perform, have fun, and hang it up when it's time for me to hang it up. Right now, I said I was going to retire when I was 40 years old. I got to 40, and I said, man, I'm still better than all these guys. So no, I'm serious. So 43 rolled around, and I'm like, man, let me do this run with Cody Rhodes and see how good I still am. If I still got it. And I went out and. If you go back and watch the performance with Cody Rhodes, I thought it was some pretty good work. I thought I was still working at a very, very high level, and I don't think I've dropped off too far from that match with Cody Rhodes. So to be able to go out and perform, that's what life's all about. Do it till you cannot do it anymore. Me and Brad, we talk about it all the time on the show. How you gonna tell a man that he can't go out and feed his family?
That's right. That's right. But I'm going to connect the dots, too, with what you just said. Okay. You just said when you came back then for the run with Cody, you were looking around going, man, I'm still better than a lot of these guys. You also just said that you now feel like you're in just as good a shape as when you came back and did your thing with Cody, which means you're in the same shape that you were then, which means connecting the dots on some level, you're watching today going, man, I'm better than a lot of these guys.
I'm going to tell you right now, on any given night, one night, these guys go out and let's give them their props. Sam, let's be real. These guys go out and they perform on a,
of course,
daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. They go out and they do WrestleMania, and then the following night, the road to WrestleMania starts all over again. On any given one night, I can go out and perform at a very, very high level. I don't know how I'm going to feel that next day, though. That's the thing. But to go out and perform at a very high level, I still think I can do it. But the thing is, my mind says that. I don't know exactly what my body is really saying, because I talk to Brad all the time, and I always say, time off is a wrestler's worst enemy. Going out there and, conditioning your body to get hit all over again. That's something that I hadn't, been a part of in quite some time.
Yeah, but let me say this, Sam, because a few years ago, Harlem Heat had their retirement match at Reality of Wrestling. This was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were going over the match before they're supposed to go out, and it was scheduled. I had the run sheet. It said 12 to 14 minutes, right? And we're out there, and then the 35-minute mark hits before the bell rings. So Book can still go. He might want to say time off is bad. The guy went over his time, which you should have gotten fired for.
The thing is, it's a mental thing. Wrestling is all mental. Physicality part is, I would say, probably 35% maybe. The mental aspect of going out there and performing, it's like riding a bike. So I really think I can go out there and do it. But I'm going to tell, the top what Brad just said, man, that day after that final Heat match, man, I was beat up. I was bruised, battered, and torn. But it was almost, it felt good in a sense, to know that I could still go out there and take a beating and keep on going.
Based on the tidbit that Brad just gave us, is it difficult to run your shows when you're telling your students, okay, you're going to go out there, hit your time, it's so important to hit your time, and then they look at you and go, Book, you went 20 minutes over on the last show. Who are you talking to?
You get caught up in the moment sometimes, man. No, I'm serious. NXT was just in town a month ago, man, and I retired to Spinneroonie in my hospital room, after having elbow surgery. That's like, I'm done. This is the final time. You'll never see the Spinneroonie ever again, guys. It is officially retired. A month ago, NXT was in town. I went down just to see Velveteen Dream, one of my kids that I trained in the Tough Enough And he was like, Coach, come down and check me out. So I went down to see him. Now, of course, when I get down there, they say, hey, Book, we want you to get in the ring and say a few words for the Houston fans. I get in the ring, say a few words. I got on flip-flops, all right? And the fans start yelling, spin a Rudy, spin a Rudy. And I go, to hell with it, man. I'm in my city. Boom, let me see if I can still do it, first and foremost. But I tell you, it was one of the best spin-a-roonies I've done in quite some time, So, your mind can will you to go out and do things, man.
But there's not a part of you that goes like, okay, wouldn't it be nice to do maybe one or two matches for Reality of Wrestling, get some eyes on the product, get some experience for the people that I'm training, and then maybe also go and do a match with AJ Styles, a match with Daniel Bryan, a match with one of these guys on a WWE pay-per-view?
You know what? I'm going to tell you right now, if the opportunity was to present itself, it's no way that I would be able to turn it down.
Right.
I can't say that. There's no way that I would be able to say, no, I'm not going to go back out there and, do what I've done so well for so many years. What has brought me to the table, professional wrestling is my claim to fame. That's what made me who I am today. And I still feel like I can go out there and perform at a very high level with AJ Styles, Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
A Bobby Roode. I've been in the ring with all of those guys, So my thing is, I will be looking forward to, going out there and doing something. Kevin Owens, man, I'd love to get in the ring with a Kevin Owens or Roman Reigns, So my thing is, to test yourself, that's what men do. We test ourselves each and every day, and I would love to be able to go out there and test myself at that level on a one-time occasion. Let's get that straight.
Right. Isn't it a wild thing though that in 2018, when you're going over like Booker T dream matches in a WWE ring, that half of them already took place in TNA?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't think anybody would have expected that.
Brad and I, we were just talking about just last week that I've gotten a chance to wrestle, with champions like, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, all the way to the current champion today, AJ Styles, and I don't know too many wrestlers have, had a chance to, sit and say, something like that, man. That's an awesome stat, for me to be a part of it, for my name to be, in there, man, is pretty cool, and not to leave off. It may be one more, you know what I mean? I could have one more match with one of those guys, So my thing is, man, I'm happy, I'm content where I'm at right now. People ask me all the time, do you miss it? And I say no, I don't miss it, because I got a chance to actually do everything I wanted to do in wrestling. But I look at myself now and I say, man, hey, why not, push the limit and see how far you actually can go.
Yeah, and the thinking is, I would think that at some point you won't be able to do it. What if you want to do it at that point and you realize, I could have done this 5 years ago and I didn't.
Yeah. I tried out for the Gladiators, way back in the day, and
American Gladiators.
Yeah, the American Gladiators, and I fell out in the first round. I had to do 50 push-ups on my fingertips, and I wasn't prepared for that. I just didn't train for that one task. And but I don't look back and say, man, I wish I would have tried. And that's one thing I tell young people. You never want to wake up one day saying, man, I wish I'd have did that when I had a chance to, because you can't go back in time or anything like that. So, hey, I'm living, in the present. You saw the post. Everybody saw, Booker T. I'm still looking good. I'm still looking jacked. I'm in the best shape, of a 53-year-old man's life. I look at, a lot of the guys that I performed with back in the day. And I say, man, Book, you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good for yourself. Just keep it up. More importantly, I got one championship match still left on the docket, and that's to see my little girl walk down the aisle. Really, that's the only one.
Yeah.
She's 7 years old, but I got to keep training. I got to stay in the gym, you know what I mean, to actually be able to, meet that championship match.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You got to still look like Booker T. When whoever the person is.
Oh yes.
Has to know that's
you know what I'm saying?
That's the guy who's at home.
About, right?
I know.
So that's the championship match, man, that I'm training for right now. But if any other matches come in, in between that date, you know what I mean? Hey, I'm gonna be more than hey, preparation is the only luck that we're ever going to have
That's right.
in life.
That's right. And I'll tell you this, I'm going to do whatever I can to get on the kickoff show for whatever show that you end up on, just so I can say, let me tell you something about this Booker T. He's a big guy. He's a big guy.
Hey, man, I'm more than a big guy, man. My thing is, man, from a performance standpoint, man, it's the scariest thing in the world, to walk out of that curtain even at 25, at 30, 35, it's the scariest thing to walk out of that curtain, knowing, and wondering, if you're going to go out there and make a mistake or anything like that. That's the thing that always frightened me, you know what I mean? And I'm sure now it would frighten me even more. The butterflies will be all over the place, lacing up my boots, putting my tights on, getting ready to make that walk, So, man, life is fun.
I've talked to you before, we've done kickoff shows before, and we've had conversations about how when you're doing Raw commentary every week, it becomes a lot easier to do the kickoff show. And I've talked to Graves about it. Like, at this point, Corey Graves doesn't barely do any preparation before he does commentary on a show, because he does commentary on all the shows. He's inundated with the product. He knows all the stories. He knows what's going on. He's told all the stories. And that makes it easier to continue to tell the stories. Now that you go home for 4 weeks and then come back for the kickoff shows, is there anything that you do to prepare? Like, the Extreme Rules kickoff show is coming up this weekend. I got to be aware of all the stories going on and everything. Is there anything that you have to do the week of to prepare for a show like that?
What's really been cool for me is to be able to step away from it, to be able to step back into it. It's just like, stepping away from the Raw commentary table.
Yeah.
And then, like next month, I think I got to go back for a date. And I don't know a whole lot of the stories that's going on per se, as far as, exactly what this guy's doing with that guy. But I do know exactly what these guys feel going into that situation, so I'm able to cover it a whole lot better. I'm able to look at it from a total analytic perspective opposed to a stat perspective, and I think that makes me feel so much more comfortable coming back and leaving and coming back, and now even going to the kickoff show on Sunday, same thing, for that show, I'll prep for that show. I'll make sure I know everything that's going on as far as what we're talking about, but I'll still give an analytic perspective opposed to a stat perspective, because I don't think that's what I'm good at. I let the stat guys be the stat guys, and I just go out and try to have fun. You might catch me singing on the show more than I'm talking.
But that's also, that's the reason you're sitting there, right? The reason we listen to Booker T give his thoughts on matches we're about to see is because we want to get the perspective of the guy that's been in the ring under every circumstance imaginable.
Well, that's what's great about having you there. You look at it from a certain perspective. David Otunga, he looks at it from a different perspective. I look at it from a different perspective.
Right.
And I think together we have a great nucleus. And, if everybody was the same, if everyone, played the sport, it wouldn't be that fun. You know what I mean? We wouldn't be able to bounce off each other, I think, the way that we do. But right now, I think is great chemistry for me. Knowing your role. I'm a utility guy. Mm-hmm. I'm the perfect utility guy. In 28 years I've been in the business, and people always wonder, man, why do you still, how do you last, man? And what keeps you going? I'm like a chameleon, man. You got to know how to change your spots. You know what I mean? You got to know how to change your colors. You got to know how to adapt to certain situations. And for me, working with you, working with Petey Boy, David, man, it's a great thing. I love it.
That's amazing to hear. Speaking of knowing how to adapt, I was thinking about that and thinking, kind of in more broad terms, because I was reading a tweet that you retweeted or you responded to that Lance Storm sent out talking about watching you on earlier episodes of Nitro on the network. And really, when you go through what's on the network, it puts your career into a huge perspective, in the sense that you've kind of been in every position there is to be in. You were in that tag team position. You were in that singles mid-card position. You were in that main event position, and then back to the mid-card. All these spots where there are guys who either don't get out of that spot or end up leaving the business before they get out of that spot, or whatever it is. You hear from some people that there are these glass ceilings. Well, creative had me pinned in this position and I was never going to get out of it. And, it was never going to happen for me. And I could tell that it was never going to happen. But for you, I've never known you to feel like you've been stuck in those funks. It seems like you always figure out how to make the best of the position that you're in. And why, for you, does it never seem like that glass ceiling has existed?
I guess Dallas Page probably said it best than anybody. When I was doing the GI Bro gimmick,
right.
And I was in the bathroom putting my paint on, and he walked by, with a disgusted look on his face, like, what is this guy doing? You know what I mean? And he's like, bro, you okay, bro? And I'm like, yeah, man, But the thing is, I used to work for a living. You know what I mean?
Right.
Before I was 25 years old, I used to work for a living. Since I was 25 years old, I have not worked a day. I really haven't. I've loved every single moment of my life past 25. Even before 25 years old, I loved certain parts. But past 25 years old, I've loved every aspect of this life since I've gotten the business. It's been an escape for me. It's been great. My father, passed away when I was 10 months old, but I hear stories, how he used to always say, cream rises to the top. Mm-hmm. And I always believed in my talent. I always knew how good I was. I always knew, that I could perform with the best wrestlers in the world. It's a story about Booker T, going around even as a young lad saying, he's top 5 in the business. You know what I mean? He's, what number are you? It really didn't matter. I knew I was top 5, or in the world. You know what I mean? Even though it was just a joke.
Right.
But for me, it made me go out and perform, at a very, very high level. You know what I mean? So life, I tell you, life has thrown me so many, bumps in the road. When I got in this business, everything was gravy after that, Sam. And that's the truth. Winning, it wasn't about winning and losing or anything like that with me. I can honestly tell you, my brother and I in a tag team, I lost perhaps 99% of the matches in the tag team losses that we had, just because I say, man, it doesn't matter if I lose. I just couldn't let the team lose. If my brother lost, the team lost. You know what I mean? So I would go out and make them forget about it the next night. It wasn't I would lose a match and let the baby faces leave and still raise my hand as if I won. No, seriously. So it was all about the performance. It was all about the entertainment that I could bring those fans. And I knew as a young man that if the fans were bringing Booker T signs, Harlem Heat signs, their following shortly after that was going to be tag team championships and bigger paydays and bigger spots on the card. But you got to go out there and prove yourself. And I learned that, as a very young man, when I came home from prison, Sam, in 1987. I knew that, 89. I knew that I had to be a different man. I knew I had to go out there and prove myself to people. I just couldn't go out there and, say, man, they should just trust me. I had to go out there and earn that trust, and it's no different in the wrestling business. I went out there and I tried to earn each and every, spot that I would get, no matter where it was. When I left WCW and went to WWE, I left every accolade behind. And I went over there to prove myself to those guys in the locker room, because I say, if you don't make it in the locker room, you have no chance at making it in the ring. So I went over there and I showed those guys, hey, I'm willing to be a team player. 28 years later, that's the reason why I'm still here talking to you right now today.
That takes so much perspective, man. That's macro thinking. I talk about that sometimes. The difference between macro and micro. The difference between worrying about how you feel in this moment right now versus what this means to the big picture. And it almost sounds like the minute you get out of prison, your perspective on life changes to the point where my actions do have consequences, and everything that I'm doing counts to what the big picture of this life, this career, this whole existence is going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. You walk down the same path that you walk up. I'm being presented with the Luther Award next week, and
Wow.
it's for it's for the work that I've done outside of the ring, opposed to the work that I've done inside of the ring, and that right there, it means a lot to me. It means so much to be, recognized for what I'm doing and what I'm going to continue to do, to the day that I die, and that's bring up the next guy, man. Pass it on, pass the knowledge on. Um, I've seen so many people, along the way that want to keep that knowledge for themselves. But for me, I'm fortunate. I'm so fortunate to be in this position that I am in right now today. I really am.
I wanted to ask you what your take was, because you're a fight fan. Of course, you caused some waves on the last kickoff show by mentioning CM Punk, but everybody knows that everybody knows that you're a UFC watcher, and Brock made a lot of waves at the last UFC fight when he got in the octagon. He shoved Cormier after Cormier had won. He called Stipe a piece of shit after Stipe had lost. I mean, it was Brock to the fullest extent of Brock. I'm watching it, and I'm going, I love this. To me, and I think really, if you look at when the most eyes are paying attention to UFC, when UFC takes a pro wrestling turn, whether it's with Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva, whether it's Conor McGregor, whether it's John Bones Jones, whether it's, Cormier at his best, when these guys take some pages out of the pro wrestling book, when UFC starts to get booked a little bit more like pro wrestling, the fights become immensely more exciting. But I think the hardcore MMA fans hate that. I think that the hardcore, there were a lot of UFC fans when I tweeted about how great it was. The UFC fans thought it was a joke. I know the Jim Norton, who I do the radio with, he wasn't upset about it, but he felt like Brock insulting Stipe, was poor sportsmanship, and that's not really what UFC is supposed to be about. But to me, I saw the business of it, and, being exposed to pro wrestling for as many years as I've been exposed to, I kind of immediately saw what was going on and loved it. What did you think of the Brock Lesnar Cormier confrontation?
Well, I think the MMA fans need to realize, you know what I mean? It is entertainment, first and foremost. And every, sport, I don't care, what it is, controversy always seems to bring more people, more eyes on it. I don't care, baseball, Barry Bonds, you know what I mean? McGuire hitting home runs, eyes was on him, you know what I mean? Muhammad Ali, talking about Joe Frazier, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was eyes on him, you know what I mean? So Brock Lesnar, coming into the UFC and creating havoc, of course, a lot of fans aren't going to want it, but I'm sure the UFC is eating it up, you know what I mean? To bring, not to harp on the CM Punk thing, but to bring CM Punk into the UFC, I mean, it was all about, a buy rate. It was all about getting more fans and more eyes from the wrestling world into the UFC, because, right now the UFC, they are struggling for stars. And let's just get it out there. Let's just say it plain and clear. The UFC, DC would not have had to move up from light heavyweight to heavyweight if they'd had someone in heavyweight to actually fight. I mean, that's just clear to me. Brock Lesnar coming over, I mean, who better to fight DC than a Brock Lesnar? I mean, come on. It's one of those chances there again, too, to make the professional wrestler look bad. But one thing they got to think about is Brock Lesnar is the real deal. Brock Lesnar is capable of going over there and beating DC. I mean, I don't know if you saw the size matchup between DC and Brock, but Brock looked like a juggernaut compared to DC. And if he got on top of DC, it would be a bad night. We know about Brock Lesnar's background, you know what I mean, NCAA Division I wrestler. He could go and wrestle with DC on that level, unlike a lot of guys, you know what I mean? So for me, it's perfect, placement right now for, DC. It's perfect placement for the UFC. It's perfect placement for Brock Lesnar. It's a perfect storm if you look at it.
Who do you think wins that fight?
It's really hard to say.
It's
a toss-up. It really is. I mean, I cannot bet against DC. He's not lost a heavyweight fight. He's gone out and beaten everyone that has come in front of him except Bones Jones, which that's an asterisk by that fight is by those two fights as well.
Yeah.
So my thing is, it's hard for me to bet against DC because if DC gets Brock Lesnar on his back, it's going to be a bad night with an Olympic caliber wrestler is on top of you.
Yeah, I think that's what people forget is that Brock Lesnar has that freak show factor where he looks like this intimidating guy. He comes from the world of pro wrestling, but everybody forgets, keep going down that list, and he's an Olympic level amateur wrestler. Like he's got that competitive fight background.
Well, and he's won the heavyweight championship
That's right.
in the UFC before.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And how great would it be, though, Sam and Book, if y'all think about it? Say Brock, defends the Universal title in a couple months, holds on to it, and ends up fighting DC, beats DC for the heavyweight championship, and then goes into the next WWE pay-per-view as the first ever WWE UFC simultaneous champion.
Wow, that would be big.
Like,
It'd be
how
incredible.
great would that be?
Incredible. But that's a good question in Book. I'd like your perspective on it. If Brock goes in, because theoretically, this fight, I think Ariel Helwani wrote this, based on the USADA, getting back into the USADA pool and running out Brock's suspension. The earliest this fight could happen is January. It's totally conceivable, especially with the schedule of the title defenses, that Brock could still be the Universal Champion in January. It's totally conceivable that he could walk in to that UFC fight with Daniel Cormier whenever it happens as WWE Universal Champion. Is that a move that you would make based on the fact that, yeah, Brad is right. If he can win and be WWE and UFC champion, it looks great for WWE. But does it hurt WWE if he loses a UFC fight as WWE champion, or are fans smart enough to know that it's two different things at this point?
Yeah, I really think fans are smart enough to know that it is two different things. But on the other hand, it would be great for the WWE to have Brock Lesnar actually go over and pull something off, like win or lose. You know what I mean?
It's a positive.
I don't think it's a black eye on the WWE just because Brock Lesnar is a legitimate badass. You know, I don't think anyone is gonna call Brock Lesnar out to a fight in a bar.
Right.
You know what I mean? you know what I mean. So any way it goes, I think this is a great situation. Like Brad said, if Brock could pull something off like that, what would that mean for his career and his bank account?
Oh my
first and
God!
foremost,
And what would it mean for whoever beats Brock for the Universal title?
I
right?
mean,
doesn't it inherently make them more special?
100%. I mean, if you've got a guy who not only beat The Undertaker, but has now held WWE and UFC gold at the same time, yeah, I would say the guy that beats him is made for life.
The one person that's not going to like it, though, is Dana White. He's going to be.
Although, that was the most telling thing of the whole thing. If you watch that Cormier-Brock Lesnar confrontation, Dana White's smile as the chaos is breaking out across that octagon, the smile on Dana White's face is ear to ear. I mean, he sees dollar signs.
You gotta wonder, man. Like I said, I think it'd be great for WWE. I think it'd be great for UFC. I think it'd be great for the fan more than anything, the WWE fan as well as the UFC fan, bringing it together. Brock Lesnar, DC Cormier. I love it.
And he's still a top 3 UFC draw of all time with Conor and Ronda. I mean, it's not like he's not going to bring in. People are like, well, why would he get a heavyweight championship shot? Why wouldn't he get a heavyweight championship shot?
Well, right now, the heavyweight division in the UFC, it's no one in there that's going to entertain you to the point to where Brock Lesnar could bring you. I mean, there's no one's going to bring the numbers that Brock Lesnar could bring in the heavyweight division. That's why I say right now the UFC is looking for stars, and the biggest star that they can find right now at this moment in time is, even over John Jones, is Brock Lesnar.
I think that's right. And speaking of stars, something I've been meaning to ask you. You and Brad were out at WrestleMania. I think we talked about this before. You were a dirt sheet writer for a day. You were doing the interviews. You did Heated Conversations live at Media Row. Being on that side, and it's different doing Media Row than it is, because of course you interview guys all the time for Heated Conversations, but being part of Media Row, that's when you see guys completely media trained. That's when you see guys, hyping up WrestleMania, the biggest weekend of the year. Like that's a very unique perspective that I feel a lot of guys in your position don't get to sit in the chair that you sat in, the chair that I sit in, the chair where you get to, watch the guys promote, and not only the show but themselves and everything. Was there anybody that weekend doing Media Row that stood out to you as you were interviewing them, hyping up WrestleMania as like, wow, this guy or girl has their stuff together?
The one guy, Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
And the reason why Braun Strowman, he impressed me so much was how intelligent he was.
Yeah.
How, even keel he was during the interview. He wasn't the monster that you saw on television. And I tell people all the time, I was never the heel or the, when I left the arena or anything. I wasn't even the same baby face I was when I left the arena. I was just Booker T when I left the arena. And to see Braun Strowman know exactly what this game is all about in his young, tenure of, his career, I give him a whole lot of credit. He's a guy that's going to go a long way and going to be remembered as one of the greatest big men in our sport. So Braun Strowman, awesome interview.
And if I could say something, Sam,
yeah,
what
absolutely.
I noticed being there, and I'm sure you went through it, when you're coming from the outside and you're a media guy and you're interviewing these guys, you're trying to gain their respect, right? And you're trying to say that, yeah, I know where you come from. I'm a part of the business. We can see eye to eye on stuff. But when you're sitting there with Booker already has all of these guys' respect. So they answer the questions, I think, differently than they would if they're coming for you or I. One of the guys that stood out to me was AJ Styles.
Yeah.
When Book asked him, so how you feeling going into this match? AJ was like super honest and was like, I'm a little nervous. People are building this matchup with Shinsuke to be like a 12-star match. I don't know if I can deliver that. And I was taken aback by that because when he's trying to promote a WWE Championship match at WrestleMania and he's going out there telling someone in the media that he's nervous, I was like, I would have never gotten that out of him. But Book being there,
of course,
he definitely gets that.
He's talking to a peer when he's talking to Booker.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed the same thing. Booker and I just dropped our live album, Live in Hollywood, where we had a bunch of guys like Corey Graves, Goldust, Kurt Angle, all those guys on the show. And it was another instance there in a live environment. Booker could get these guys to tell stories that they probably wouldn't anywhere else.
And by the way, genius move, because I saw you guys did I remember when you guys did the live show, and I was like, I guess they're just recording a podcast. You're the only guys that think of the fact that you're like, no, this isn't a podcast. This is an album. You can buy this one. This isn't just going on the feed. And I was like, I'm a fool. I've been giving everything away. This is the way to do things. My God, these guys are smart. Well, everybody check out Heated Conversations, of course, with Brad and Booker. Also, it's a radio show, it's a podcast, it's everything. Also, of course, the Live in Hollywood show is available on all streaming services, but it's an album. So don't look for it in a podcast section. Look for it in the album section, and you'll get all that great content. And Reality of Wrestling there in Houston, where at some point you actually may see Booker T put the boots back on.
If Booker does put the boots back on in Houston, at Reality Wrestling, Sam, you got to come down and we'll do a pre-show about that. How about that?
You send me the invite, and I promise you I will be there.
You got it.
Don't bluff, because I will go. I will go. Don't.
All right, man.
Don't bluff, Booker. I will see you at Extreme Rules, and I appreciate you being a part of the podcast.
You got it, bro. Anytime, man. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.